Hello and welcome to the Molten Truth podcast. I am your host, Zoey Michaels, and hopefully by now you know me, but if you have any questions, check out zoeymichaels.com, and I'm sure you'll find a good number of answers there. And anything else, you can always contact me or tune in for the next episode. So today I am speaking with a really just amazing author. She's an award-winning author with multiple genres under her belt and over a dozen novels that I'm aware of. And she's no stranger to the power of resilience, which is why she's joining us here. Her name is Trisha Copeland, and I'm going to let Trisha speak for herself. But our goal here at the Molten Truth is just to be like this golden band, and our guest is the diamond to shine. So we're going to let Trisha shine.
Well, thank you, Zoey. Thank you for having me. I was so excited to be able to come and talk to you and your audience today. So it's really fun.
Yeah, I know. We had such a great time talking in our little pre-interview session. I forgot to even take notes. So as much as I enjoyed our time off air, I'm hoping that our audience will enjoy our conversation on air.
Yeah, I love being able to talk author to author, and yeah, everything books and that world is fun for me to talk about.
Exactly. It's like being a fly on the wall. We're just two people just cutting up, having a great old time.
Yeah.
So I know one of the things we had talked about is that you've got I think it's a 4-book series that you're promoting right now. I think it's something.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. No, yeah, I have several series. The series I began with, and the series that's probably most applicable to this podcast is my Being Me series,
Yes.
which is a 4 adult series. It's hard to categorize the genre. It's women's fiction, it's inspirational, it's coming of age, new adult, college, romance, all of those rolled into one. But the premise is there's a college-age girl, her name is Amanda, and she develops anorexia in her freshman year of college. I guess pretty much in their sophomore year of college, actually, now that I'm thinking about what my books are actually about, which really mirrors my experience in college. I became anorexic in my sophomore to junior years in college and had to leave school, and obviously just a very tumultuous time. But fast forward 20 years and I'm really looking back on my life and my experiences and thinking, wow, you don't read that much about eating disorders and recovery and what that looks like. And it's so hard for someone on the outside, number one, to understand it. Number two, I think a lot of people that develop eating disorders feel very isolated. There's not as many of us out there, so we're sort of sometimes still on our own. And I just wanted to show that hope and that recovery and that it's just camaraderie and feeling like you had family and you had a group of people that you could go to.
Absolutely. I'm going to guess, because I really don't know anything about that world, but I would guess that that's something that, they're not broadcasting it. It's very private. They're not going to be real obvious about it. You might see clues maybe, but that's
right. When you're in the disease and practicing disease, definitely you don't want to get found out. I mean, that's the major. Oh, my cat's going to come by here.
That's okay. I've got a dog and probably a couple cats that'll be coming around. So we're being real.
Yeah. So definitely when you're in the disease and when you're trying to, stay in your little bubble and just block out the world, you definitely don't want to be discovered or found out. And I developed a disease in a world. It was just the start of the internet. I didn't even think to look this up, but now there's so much access to the internet and stories. Like, people learn how to do this online, which was, scary and enlightening to me as even going into treatment 30 years ago. People were like, oh, you didn't look it up on the internet? I was like, what? So, but there is, the good side is there's access to community and talking to people who know what you're going through and can give you resources to help. The downside is that, a lot of times people are teaching younger adults how to do these things. And really, it's when you're in that disease, it's just about trying to escape whatever predicament you're in, whether you're stressed about school, your parents, things that have happened in your life, and it's just an escape. and becomes almost like an addiction, just like drugs or alcohol, or, I was too goody two shoes to drink or do drugs. So I was like, if I just thinner, I'm sure I'll be fine. And then your brain rewires itself to think that that's an activity or that's the thing you need to keep up and persist in, and then it just becomes a world of its own.
Yeah. And I like that you use the expression how the brain rewires itself, because it does. When you start thinking a certain way, and the more you allow yourself to think it, you really are rewiring your brain. So that is the perfect analogy for that.
Oh, it's definitely the case, because in the end, I couldn't make myself eat. I knew that I needed to eat. I knew that I needed nourishment. I knew and I couldn't make myself. Every time I would just talk myself out of it, even though I wanted to get better, even though I knew I was dying, basically killing myself. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it does take an outside source to help us to reset, to effectively rewire that thinking.
Oh, definitely, 100%. I know I couldn't have done it by myself. I couldn't have recovered by myself, and I know I needed help. So I don't want other people to get to the depths of the disease that I did. And sometimes the sad part is that sometimes it just takes that for a lot of people in addictions, as well as eating disorders and those mental challenges and disabilities. Sometimes it takes that, and that's hard for outside people to see. Definitely families and loved ones and friends. But sometimes it takes that, and that's hard and sad too.
Right. And that's assuming that you're not really a stubborn person. Sometimes I can be. And you have to maybe hit rock bottom and have a scare that then gets you on track.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was, I guess, describing.
Oh, I see. I was thinking in terms of family recognizing, helping versus hitting rock bottom.
My family tried to stop or step in multiple times before I hit my rock bottom, and
yeah. So even when a person does hit rock bottom or recognizes the need for change, recognizing doesn't necessarily equate action. So what helped to get you to a point of, okay, now I'm ready and I am going to take action?
Really, it's sad to say, but the only thing that helped me was nearly dying. And at the time I wanted help, but then by that point I didn't even know how. My brain, I was starved to death, basically. My brain couldn't even probably put together 2 coherent sentences. I couldn't. I was seeing a counselor and lying to the counselor. My parents were there every weekend, and I couldn't think rationally at all. So for me, it took me almost dying, and the fact that. And a doctor saying to me, "We can't help you. You've done this to yourself." And I was so pissed at that doctor. I was thinking, hello, I'm here because I want help. But it was hard to hear, but partially true. You start out just wanting to be different, to feel better. And then you get in this cycle that you can't get yourself out of. And then, you're in it and you're at the bottom, and basically I was like, okay, I'll do what you tell me to do. I'll do anything. I don't want to die. So that's when you just have to give up and let somebody else tell you what to do.
Absolutely. Because, we writers, we're visual people, right? So if someone's describing something, we're having this picture in our head. And so my mind's going to someone who's maybe fallen down on the floor. There's someone there to help them. They're reaching out a hand. But if you're dead weight, that hand is not going to help you up. You have to use your legs and your power in conjunction with that hand to actually pick yourself up. And so that's kind of what I was visualizing as you were explaining that to us.
Well, definitely. Yes, I can say, people can offer you branches and things, but yes, you have to make the decision to say, yes, I want that branch, or I want you to tell me what to do, because my thoughts aren't working.
Right. Yeah. Unless you personally take that necessary step and action, you're going to fall right back where you started. You're never going to get up, let alone move forward.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So was writing, is that about the same time that your writing started? Was it maybe part of your healing process? I'm kind of curious if there's any kind of connection there.
Yeah, no, I didn't love writing for many years of my life. And my writing journey sort of started with technical writing. I realized I like technical writing, but as I said, like 20 years later is when I wrote these books. So it maybe it was a little bit healing for me too, to look back on my younger self and say, okay, this is what happened and this was okay. And maybe give myself a little more grace than I had when I was younger, and also like look at my recovery and what I gained from that experience. Even though it was hard and it was horrible and I thought my life was over, it very nearly was physically over, but like emotionally and success wise, it seemed like I would never, get back to where on track for my life. I feel like I have so many tools and I'm in so much, but have been in so much of a better, healthier place, like mentally, emotionally, because I was given all those tools in recovery of, just how to talk to people and how to share your problems, and that it's okay to do that, and that, you don't have to be 100% perfect all the time. And so I have all those tools that I never had before and didn't know were even available to me. And I go through life being able to use those tools and learn new tools all the time. So I definitely have that openness, that awareness, and that self-reflection ability, but also the ability to reach out and ask for people for help, because I was never able to do that before. So I can look back and say I gained so many tools, even though it was a really hard time.
Absolutely. We learn so much while we're in school. We get a lot of repetitive information while we're in school, right? And it's a pity that these type of life skills are not taught early in life. That maybe some things in life could be avoidable had we learned early on that more than just use your words, but how using your words can help you to process emotion and find the support that you need, or reduce that emotional state, and just all these other little life skill things that help you later. It's a pity that most of us have to find them either during or after a trauma, whether it's through professional resources or reading extensively, that we have to dig or stumble upon it because some wonderful friend says the right thing at the right time that then causes you to research something. But if
right,
these things are taught early in life, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like generational too. I mean, I feel like my kids in school had many more team building exercises and group bonding and learning more about emotional health than I ever did in school. So I don't know if it's regional or generational or what that is, but I feel like maybe both. Yeah. I feel like my kids got a little more of that. Social skills and emotional skills than I did. I hoped I passed more along. So yeah,
you might have hit the nail on the head. It could be a generational thing. I had a conversation with another brilliant writer, actually two very similar from similar backgrounds, and kind of the same thought process, that the generation after that was raised by the World War II veterans, and how they really processed their emotions, and things came to light that didn't come to light after the World War II time frame. But there's something to be said for that. As each generation and we dealing with issues and we're being more outspoken, you might have hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, and maybe it just we've allowed ourselves to talk about things and not make it so taboo or shameful, or however people thought it used to have to be, like talked about behind closed doors, or not at all. And you just kept going, right? And obviously for a lot of people, that keep going and keep your head down doesn't
work. Right, exactly. Yeah, we do need to be able to process, and if for no other reason, just so we don't pass down more of the same mess down to the next generation because we are, our parents who raised us, I'll give you an example. I am not left-handed, but I was raised by a left-handed woman. So I wash dishes backwards because I was raised by a left-handed woman. So that same kind of thing, those mindsets or habits, they trickle down.
Well, that's funny, yeah, because my dad was left-handed, and I don't really golf, but like miniature golf, I will miniature golf left-handed. I will hit the ball in softball left-handed because my dad taught me to, and that's very natural for me. I can actually do it both ways.
Yeah.
I always tried to handwrite left-handed, but it didn't ever, like, I practiced for years and it still does not look good. So I just thought it was so cool, but yeah, you can't read it.
Yeah. I'm really glad because I can't even imagine all the ink that I'd have on my hand if I was left-handed. Yeah. Anyway, just it's one of those interesting things. But I was refreshing my memory before we got to recording, and I was kind of excited by this book you had about, was it the DNA and the diseases? I forget what it was.
Oh, Lovelock ones, yes.
Yes, that was it. I was like, ooh, I want to read this. It's like a 2-part story, it looks like, or
it is a 2-part series right now. Yes, I would like to write the ending, but I can talk about the first 2 books.
Yeah.
So I was challenged to write a short story, and the theme had to be healing. And as a person who was a microbiology major, and I did microbial genetics for my research, my job, I needed it to be about genetics for me. That was how I thought about healing, right? So I have 2 characters, 2 generations into the future of our current time. And you kind of learn that there's been one worldwide, I know I'm going to say the bad word, pandemic. You learn that there's been one worldwide pandemic, and now there's the threat of a second worldwide pandemic. And there's 2 teenagers, a boy, Troy, and a girl, Gemma, and their parents are in the military. So they're on the front lines of knowing what's going on. So they ship the kids, like a whole of many people on this naval base decide, okay, we're going to ship our kids and our wives away to a community in the desert so they'll be safe from this pandemic. And Gemma and Troy are these 2 kids. And it ends up that they end up having to drive this huge truck with these women and children all the way from Oregon into the desert of Nevada, where there's this cave, and it's an actual cave that I researched. It's called Lovelock. So this is where this community is. But what happens is Gemma's sister, who is 10, she develops the flu virus, and they're trying to save her sister. So they go to great lengths. It gets a little dark, but
pandemic is dark.
As a pandemic, they're not living in the pandemic, but they have somebody who's sick. And I won't tell a lot of what happened because that's fun to find out. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun writing that. I wrote it from both Gemma's perspective and Troy's perspective. And then the second book follows them then the group in the desert finds a cure, but they decide, hey, we're not going to give it to the rest of the world. We're just going to keep it for our country and our people. And Gemma and Troy and a group of others are outraged by this. And also the rest of the world is outraged by this, obviously, and threatens to drop nuclear bombs on us at one point unless, they get the cure. So Gemma and Troy in the second book and their little brigade of army people set out to get the cure back and deliver it to the rest of the world. And that's sort of where it leaves off. I won't give too much away. But as you can see, I started this in 2018. Okay. And so it was eerily predictive because in the book they even blame the Chinese for starting the next pandemic. And I was like, ooh, am I a psychic? But because you're not really.
We've had near misses before, like with H1N1 and things. I mean,
yes.
And they'd been predicting the possibility of a pandemic for quite some
They
time.
have been, yes, that's true.
So,
pandemic books are not as popular right now, I have to say.
Well, having lived through it, right?
Yes. Yeah, but it was a lot of fun because it was stretching they're very much militarized and having to live off the land, and they don't have any creature comforts, and I was having to think about what that actually looked like and how they could, make it through this weird time. So
absolutely. I mean, when I read the descriptions, I was intrigued. I was like, ooh, I definitely want to read this. So, I mean, there's people like me out there who might still want to read it.
I hope so. I still have to write the last book. It's really hard for me to get back into it and say, okay, what's really going to happen here? Because Gemma and her sister are now, the government has their sister and she's escaped, but she has to get her sister back. And how is that going to look?
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be on my reading list. I'm building a reading list with all these great authors I'm speaking with. I'm like, oh, well, that's another one I want to read. Oh, there's another one I want to read. And thank goodness you've got them in audiobook format, because that's about all I really have time for is audiobooks, because that's when I'm in my car. It's usually when I do my listening. So.
Oh. Yes, I do the same, definitely.
But let me ask you this, because you've got these different genres to choose from. Out of all the things you've written so far, do you have a favorite?
Oh, it's really hard to say. Yeah, because my first series obviously was the inspirational women's fiction series, but my love is fantasy. I love witches, I love vampires, I love that whole world of just thinking about there could be different types of beings that we just don't know about that we're passing every day in real life. So that's sort of probably my favorite. So right now I'm about to finish, or at the end of the month, I'll release the final book in my Realm Chronicles series, which is a fae fantasy series, oddly enough, which is contemporary fairies, where they live in a world just below our world that we don't know about. Obviously, the humans can't know. So right now, that's my favorite because that's my most recent, and that's what's been on my mind. So I have to say that for right now.
All right, sounds fair. Sounds good. And then let's see. There was another thought, and I'm catching me on a long day after a holiday weekend, so I am not at peak performance today. So my apologies to everyone listening and to you, because I became this close to rescheduling. I'm like, okay, let's push through. We can do this. So is there any genre that you have always wanted to write but haven't gotten around to yet?
Not really. I feel like I've checked off all my boxes. I'm not I did say there are some dark moments in some of my books, but I don't really write dark books or horror books. I've always been scared of, things that can't be explained. If it can be explained away, I'm good with it, right? But even in my fantasy, right? So I probably won't ever write that. But the funny thing was, I took a screenwriting course, and one of the people in my class was writing horror, and I was like, how do you feel to write a horror movie? I mean, maybe I could do that, right? But anyway, we'll see.
I get that. So talk to me a little bit more about screenwriting. Is that something you're doing on this, is that the primary job and then you're writing on the side, or how does that play into your world?
I never knew anything about screenwriting, so I just took, I have two complete fantasy series that are crossover series now, and I think they'd be amazing on a series, either a movie series or a Netflix series or something like that. I think they'd be super fun because I've created these whole worlds that are intertwining with each other, and they could go on for seasons and seasons. So I thought, I'll just see what the screenwriting thing is. So yeah, I adapted my first book, Kingdom of Embers, into a screenplay, and it's just sitting on my computer right now. Everybody keeps asking me, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm like, okay, I really don't know what I'm going to do, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So it's just for right now, it's just let's experiment and let's see how it plays out. And I know from speaking with another writer that, there's a great deal of investment involved with bringing something like that to life. So it may be a while.
Yeah, you think audiobook is at one level, talk about screenplay, 10x that, right?
Right? I know. Right now, my dream is to get one of my books onto audiobook. I can't even imagine that next level. But
it does, like, screenwriting gives you a different skill set, I think. Like, the plot has to be so tight, and the characters, everything has to be so tight. Like, it's not like writing a novel. You don't get all these layers and side characters and side plots, and even like translating my own book, it changed a lot from like what the story is in a book form to what I made the story into. So that was interesting.
Yeah, to tighten that focus so you can be in a certain time frame. I imagine that would be, it's like, I feel like it's almost like chopping off an appendage.
It was definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to rework it a little because if you think about a series and the first book in a series and transforming that into like a movie that's going to end in an hour and a half,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you have to lose so much of the story. I always used to struggle when I was a girl. I grew up watching Gone with the Wind. It was a family favorite, kind of movie. And I knew about the book. And when I was a little bit older, I tried to read that book. And I tried it 5 times before I finally succeeded getting past the first chapter. But once I got past that first chapter and finally read that book, it over the years has become what I prefer it over the movie because of all those details. I love the details. Still love Clark Gable, Vivian Leigh. They're cool people, but love the details.
Yes, I think I've read that 2 or 3 times over too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the the upside of having something in a TV or movie is that we get to just sit there and enjoy the story, right? We just sit back and we let the story wash all over us. They do the imagining for us, but we lose so much detail.
Yeah, it can be a little more relaxing or restful to watch something than either to listen to it or to read it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's because we don't have time in our lives to really enjoy a book the way we did when we were growing up. I mean, there were days, summer vacation, right? You sat there and you read day after day after day. You played some, but you would just read to your heart's content because you had the time. And we just don't have the time anymore, like that luxury.
Yeah, the only way I feel like I get books in now is audiobooks, whereas before it wasn't going to happen if I had to sit down, right?
Exactly. And that's kind of my life now too. Although I did get to relive some time when I lived in Ecuador for a time, and so I did have the luxury of reading at that point in time for a while. But audiobooks, thank goodness audiobooks came into existence because I don't know if I would have the ability to consume nearly as much written material as I do now if it wasn't for audiobooks.
Right. Yeah. My half my Saturday cleaning my house is listening to a book.
Exactly. I'll tell you, they even help me sleep at night. When I know a story backwards and forwards, I never start with a brand new book. It has to be an old friend. But I find that if I can listen to an audiobook that I know well, where I can focus on it for even just 5 minutes, I can make myself stop thinking because I'm focused on the book. I fall asleep. Yeah. But it's about helping me stop thinking because this mind, it's very loud in here. So the audiobooks, greatly love them. So moving on to some other thoughts here. So you may not necessarily have advice, but I'm going to ask just in case. Someone who maybe has always dreamed of being a writer or later in life discovered, well, I never thought about being a writer, but I have this history where I was writing and I didn't even think about it as something I wanted to do professionally. Any thoughts or advice for those people?
Just do it. Yeah. I mean, I just started writing and I got like 180,000 words in, and it was just to keep myself, I mean, my kids were little and I was writing after they went to bed just because I didn't want to watch Netflix and I was sort of bored and I was working through that time period in my life, and I just started writing and it was fun. Like I pretended that they were characters in my head. It was like a movie that I was seeing, and I get to write the next part of the movie every night. And I feel like if it's a passion project like that, just start it and do it. Like, do 15 minutes a day or do 20 minutes a day, and just keep going. And you can figure out the rest later. You can, take courses, learn how to structure plot, learn how to structure characters, find an editor that can help you work with it, or work with an author coach, or, get feedback from, you can join groups, author groups, and get feedback. I mean, if it's a passion, just go for it. Just do it.
Nice. Very nice. That is excellent advice, because we all do need, whether it ends up being something that ever gets published or not, just to have that something that you love to do just for you.
To have that creative outlet and something that brings you joy.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely, I think that's excellent advice. Borrow that from Nike. Just do it.
Yes, that's pretty much my mantra.
Nothing wrong with that, especially when it comes to basically feeding the soul, because that's what writing does. It helps you process, it helps feed the soul, and who knows where it will lead.
And I was writing in notebooks when I started. Like, I was handwriting in notebooks. And my husband was, after like 2 or 3 months, my husband was like, "Here's a laptop, sweetie."
Oh, that's so sweet.
I know, it was so sweet. I was like, okay, thank you.
So it sounds like he's been very supportive through this whole process then.
He was supportive of me not going crazy, raising my 3 children at home by myself. Yes.
Oh, that's so nice. So then in your case, you're writing these notebooks, and then your husband gives you the laptop and you start typing out and so on. At what point did you decide that you wanted to move to being published?
Yeah, so like I said, I had this manuscript that's 180,000 words. I'd worked on it for like 5 years at that point, just every night after my kids went to bed, just working. And it was just a fun story. I mean, it was my story, fictionalized, but it was fun. The girl was much more fun than me. and she had a much cooler boyfriend, and, it was all happy. And obviously there were sad parts, and at that point, she was just getting into her disease. That was kind of the hook of the series. But, and my sister-in-law, I gave it to my sister-in-law. Was like, "You gotta let me read this. You just gotta." And I'm like, "Okay, just read it." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you gotta finish this." And then I had a friend who was also an indie published author, or not also, at the time I wasn't, but who was an indie published author and an editor, and worked with a group of editors that helped indie writers. So I let her read it, and she was like, "This is pretty good." Obviously it needed tightening up. It was a lot of dialogue because I was just writing like the movie I saw in my head. I was just writing the dialogue. So, I mean, she helped me shape up the story a lot, and that was my first 2 books. So, and then from there, I just was like addicted to writing and just kept writing.
So great. I love that. And it's hopefully an inspiration for those others out there who've thought about it, or, have, never thought about being published, but just, again, for their own edification. But so then at what point did it become about finding an editor or finding someone to publish you, or did you go the indie route?
Right. So after I finished the first 2 books and had them edited and they were ready to be published, I wanted to try the regular publishing route. So I queried I was very patient, I have to say, because all the authors I talked to who have published books the regular publishing route, they're like, "It took me 2 or 3 years." And I was like, "Oh, I was willing to wait 2 or 3 months, right?" But I sent out like 300 queries. I had this whole Excel spreadsheet of who I contacted when, and I did get several asks to read my book. But it wasn't like Harlequin was like, "Oh, I wanted this finished in 1 book." I'm like, I can't tell that story in 1 book. Like, it wouldn't do the story justice just to come out and say, "Oh, I developed an eating disorder and I got better." That would be that 1 book story, right?
Right.
That
exactly.
cannot even touch the emotional depth of what someone goes through, right?
I get it.
So then I was like, okay, I feel good that I gave it my college try, and now I'm going to do it on my own. And like I said, because my friend had already indie published, and she was an editor with these other group of editors, and they had a formatter, and I found a cover person in my town. And so I just said, well, I'm going to do it like I want to do it. So, yeah.
And I think there's value in that, because mainstream media, whether it's music, whether it's books, they're looking for something that they can commercialize, that's going to fit in their nice little box that they've decided. But I happen to enjoy things that are outside of that box. I love finding something that's unique and not just your everyday cookie cutter thing. So I am a big fan of the indie route.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to follow a script, or if it's well done and you get a good editor who's going to help you, shape a good story that appeals to people, then I think go for it.
Absolutely right. So we're getting close to the end of our time together, and I want to make sure we still have enough time for some other things. So one of the things I mentioned to you beforehand is that we've started asking our previous people who've been on the show to submit a question for the future guest. And so the last guest I had, she's a big fan of tattoos. And so she asked the question of, if you were going to get a tattoo or another tattoo, as the case may be, what would it be and why?
Oh, this is a great one for me. So I can speak to tattoos a lot. I love my tattoos. I came into loving tattoos later in life, so this is my first one. It's a sparrow, which is the symbol for my B&B book series, the first book series I published. So I did that, and then I have a sparrow on my foot, which is like a really big one for a friend that I lost. And then on my other foot, I have roses for another friend I lost. And then I have, for love lock ones, I have these arrows here with the flowers, and the flowers are for my sister. And then I have birds on this side, and I have I have something on this side, and I have flowers and vines all the way up my back. So I love my tattoos. So what I've been thinking is, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I see it now.
So I have these arrows and these flowers, but this one is, you can tell it looks lighter. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't get really like incorporated. It doesn't look like a cohesive work of art. So I think what I'm going to do next is kind of fill this in with more flowers, so it looks more cohesive and it can look more like one picture than just sort of two different things put there. That's my next goal.
All right. See, and I wouldn't have even guessed that you had any tattoos.
I know. So yeah,
I was really surprised that you actually were like, well, I have this. I'm like, what?
I have them in strategic places because I work in the law field, and sometimes that can be a little taboo. So I just
Well, I guess she did well asking that question. I really was like, I'm not sure about this one, but okay.
I'm your least likely candidate.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I really didn't know what to expect, as far as, even when she asked that before I knew who was going to be coming next. I was like, well, let's just see.
You get anorexic with a high pain tolerance, and you have lots of tattoos.
Who'd have thought? So then I don't know if you've had time to consider about what question you might want to ask a future guest. If it's too soon, just let me know, but we can always get it offline. But if you happen to know what your question for the next guest is, I would love to write it down.
I will ask them this question, and authors hate to answer this question, but we always have an answer that maybe sometimes we don't want to admit. So I will say, what is your favorite character, or who is your favorite character of yours that you wrote, and why?
Yeah, because they're all like our children. Favorite character that you wrote, and why? My mind immediately goes to was it Charles Dickens who wrote David Copperfield? I feel like that's the right author. Yeah. And how I believe that was actually his favorite character was David Copperfield, because he related most to him as a writer. So it's a good question. It's a good, solid question. And you're right. I mean, I think to the people I've written, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that one might be my favorite, but now I've got to really think about it. Like,
I know. Usually, whatever I'm writing right then tends to be my favorite. But if I really went back and thought about it,
yeah, exactly. Well, and if you're like me, even though you have certain amount of books you've written, and you might have, I like to work on multiple projects at the same time because
oh,
I bounce all over the place in my head. So it's good for me to have a place to bounce to. I call myself like an ADHD writer. So I've got, the books I've finished, the books I'm working on, and all the ideas for future books. I'm like, but I love this character that I haven't started writing yet, or I haven't finished writing yet. So yeah, it's hard to choose.
Yeah, and that favorite character may not be a major character either. It might just be a character that you're like, ooh, I have a really good backstory for them, right?
Yes, exactly. Or the coolest, setup for them, or whatever the case. It's so true. It's so true. It might be a supporting character because, like in my life, I'm more of a supporting character to people around me than I am. Although maybe I'm a character on my own. I don't know.
I'm sure you are.
I have my moments at least, right? So, okay. Well, your books are available where?
They're available. So you can go to my website. I have links on my website, but mostly on Amazon. They're all on Kindle Unlimited. And then the Kingdom Journals, as well as the Realm Chronicle series, is on audiobook. So you can find them on Audible. And the Kingdom Journals series is wide on audiobook. So Chirp and all those fun places.
Okay, very cool. All right. Well, I have so enjoyed having this time with you talking tonight. And any last thoughts for the audience that you want to share?
I guess if you want to try my books, then you can go to my website, and I have 2 free short stories, a romance and a fantasy, that you can download and try them out. So that's always fun too.
Sounds good. One last question, just off the top of your
now
head.
I'm scared.
I think we all have tend to have a favorite saying. I know I've got one, so I wonder if you might have a favorite saying.
Do I have a favorite saying?
Yeah, saying. I'm probably not saying that correctly. Yeah.
I'm from the South, so it would be saying. It might just be just do it, because that's, I get something in my head and I can tell myself like, oh, you shouldn't do this because of this reason, and this reason. And then I'm like, nope, if you think it's what's right, just do it.
Well, and that's a good solid piece of advice, a good saying to have. Absolutely. For me, it's when things don't go right, go left.
I like that one.
Find your way around your obstacle, right? So
that's a good thing to have an author, because you have those obstacles for your characters and you have to figure out how to go left.
Exactly. I love that. I actually found that on vacation on the island of Curacao. It was a little sign on the island of Curacao, and I was like, oh, I love that. I fell in love with it. I've used it ever since.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming, and for everyone who's watched it, I hope you've enjoyed our little fly on the wall conversation, and hopefully you'll check out Trisha's books. And I do want to say, please share the video, like it, tell other people about it, because we've had some amazing guests already, including Trisha, and we're going to have more amazing guests coming on board and we're a weekly broadcast now compared to the bi-weekly where we started out. So we are growing. We are moving forward. We're even going to be having some musicians in the future. So we are widening out who we're talking to, and come join the party. Thank you and have a good evening. Here we go. We're going to end the recording.